Good morning, gentlemen. In our series of emotion discussion, today we will discuss triggers for emotions. Last video, we did talk about the emotions and the types of emotions. The problem is what is trigger? Trigger refers to experience of having emotional reaction toward disturbing topic. It may be a violence, it may be suicide, it may be media, it may be social setting, or it may even be a combination of automatic appraisal matching to our what we call a universally hardwired or acquired script in our database. That database is our mental database, what we call perceptual database. And this perceptual database describes our universal hardwired responses and our individual acquired emotional memories. It may be, a simple way of telling that is, in our mother may have cooked very good food. In our area, we call it pua. And that smell of pua, which was cooked by my mother, still gets removed in my memory. And whenever you feel certain smell, so it triggers that is the database and that gets triggered down there. So when the appraised events resemble something in our database, as in case of we talked about pua, it may be highly accurate or could create a distorted perception of the trigger. Maybe saying that smell is not as good as what my mother was making it, or maybe it's better than what my mother had made it. Maybe even our intimidating experience with police officer in our childhood may result in misperceived situation with a distorted sense of fear when dealing with the police as an adult. Because, however, there's a difference between trigger and being uncomfortable. Uncomfortable, I'm something, there may be other reasons for it. It's too hot, too cold. That's uncomfortable. But when it gets triggered, there's certain emotion. It triggers for certain types of emotion. So being triggered means that you experience a strong negative emotional reaction in response to a current situation that is disturbing to you in some way. For individuals with a history of trauma or abuse, triggers are often stimuli that brings up involuntary memories of the traumatic past experiences. Feeling triggered isn't just about something rubbing you wrong way. A person with a history of trauma may be reminded of traumatic experience, as I said in case of a police officer experience, making him feel like experiencing the trauma all over again. Even people without a history of trauma can be triggered when something elicits a strong emotional reaction. Some people can cope up with the stressful events easily. Some may not be in a position to do that. So it is all individual. Say, for example, let me just give an example, trigger which was given by Dalai Lama and Ekman. So he says you are grieving, maybe some reason. Your friend gets angry in that time of grief. Then it reminds you of his insensitivity earlier as well. And then as a result, now you feel the emotion that you feel disgusted, you feel sickened. And then you react in a particular way. Similarly, now in the same way, reminds us some scary news has come and a friend gets angry with you at that particular time. And he tells you that probably he will abandon you. Or probably you may have been abandoned by him when you really needed him. So what happens that then you experience the emotion of fear. Then you'll take certain actions based upon the fear that has come back. So as far as the triggers are concerned, they can be triggered internal triggers or external triggers. Internal triggers comes from persons within, maybe memory, physical sensation, emotion. Other internal common triggers may be anger, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, vulnerable, abandoned, or out of control, loneliness, tension, Memories tied to a traumatic event, pain, sadness. So they are all internal triggers. Then there may be external triggers. Maybe, no, you don't like a person. Looking at him, I get angry. Why? I do not know. Maybe a place. Something wrong had happened, particularly, you don't want to go to that place at all. And there may be such a situation which have been problematic for you, and you would also like to avoid. And if you go there, you automatically get triggered. Certain time emotion comes to play. Okay. Now, next, having talked about it, a person with a mental illness may be triggered by a normal everyday situation. Even minor inconveniences can put him off. It may be a movie, television show, articles, person connected to experience, especially time of day, certain sounds, change in relationships. So there are various examples how a person with mental illness can be triggered. Triggered uh, generally elicits strong negative emotions, as we already talked about: anger, fear, shame. Now, if you feel unsafe or threatened, so what will happen? Your trigger is you get panicking. You try and run away from the situation, start crying, acting out, becoming defensive. So there are the various ways this trigger lets you behave in a particular fashion. Next comes how triggers are formed. Some researchers believe that the brain stores memories from traumatic event differently from memories from non-traumatic events. When triggered, the brain might interpret past traumatic events as current. This causes the body to experience symptoms as it did in response to the original trauma, such as the fight or flight response that we only undertake. A trigger can cause an emotional reaction before the person realizes why they have become so upset. A trigger can have a strong sensory connection. It may be sound, sight, sound, taste, smell, something linked into some way in our ingrained habits. No? A person recovering from alcohol use or use disorder might associate a particular activity of drinking with drinking at every time. That's how the association comes back. And these connections are called traumatic coupling, in which a trigger is connected to a traumatic experience, causing you to relive it, and associated symptoms are also seen. So then comes, what are the risk factors? Period of emotional development when the trauma occurred. There are the risks around there. Duration, intensity of traumatic experience, characteristic of the event, including how extreme it was, being psychologically or physically, emotionally harmed. So what is that? There are certain ways and certain factors which can increase our risk of developing the trigger. So we may be, depending, every individual gets triggered differently. But they are the situations which enables him to get triggered earlier or probably may late, depending upon his individual perception. So what he says, certain underlying mental health conditions, including substance use disorder, depression, anxiety, might make someone more prone to experience more severe reactions to trigger. Gentlemen, understanding trigger is very important because this is what helps us in showing our behavior. We behave differently in a different situation. Why do we do that? And in order to do that, this trigger, so understanding a trigger is very, very important, especially if you are going for any interview, especially even if a day-to-day situation which you face with your family or the society, you won't like to get triggered. If you get triggered, then people will take advantage of you and they will trigger most often than not. As a result, you may be typified in a particular type of person. So aim of this series of video is only to educate people that there is a trigger And these triggers are enabler of various type of emotions. Emotions allows us to behave in a particular fashion. Then we start acting out, and those acting out becomes my behavior pattern. And if I continue to do it, that is what is going to affect our personality. And if our personality get affected, if positively, we are happy. If negatively, then we are getting corroded. We will find difficult to go along the world in a particular fashion and exploit our what is strength. Thank you, gentlemen. It was nice interacting. Now we'll next series of lecture on the emotions. We'll come back how these triggers and other events, what is the process in which we react. Okay, thank you.